This is Plant-Based Briefing, Why Vegans Won't Tell You They're Vegan, The Other Side of Vegan Stigma, Part 1 by Moran Barwick at bitesizevegan.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, and this is the Plant-Based Podcast where I curate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living, get permission, and narrate them to you here in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And today's article is a bit longer than that, so it's a two-parter. I'll read Part 1 today, and Part 2 will be tomorrow. So now let's get to today's Plant-Based Briefing. Why Vegans Won't Tell You They're Vegan, The Other Side of Vegan Stigma, Part 1 by Moran Barwick at bitesizevegan.org. You may have heard some variation of the joke, how do you know someone's vegan? Don't worry, they'll tell you. Ironically, this joke captures one of the reasons many, if not most, vegans actually won't tell you they're vegan. In fact, many vegans put great effort into not talking about veganism at all. In this article, we're not only going to look into some of the reasons vegans hide their veganism, but also how this self-silencing and its causes harms all of us, vegan or not, and the potential solutions may not be what you'd expect. Essentially, we need to evolve towards a world without vegans. Some of the many reasons vegans hide their veganism. There are many reasons vegans hide their veganism, with diverse, complex, and even conflicting motivations and concerns. While I won't be able to speak to every individual's vegan experience, we'll be exploring some of the common pressures vegans face. Vegan self-silencing is often motivated by experiences of being othered, yet many of the reasons vegans hide their veganism spring from human needs and desires we all share, and all of those needs can be placed in jeopardy when people learn you're vegan. While the first few sections we'll cover may sound like a commercial for why you should never consider moving away from eating animals, there's evidence things may be changing. But before we can speak to the solutions and signs of hope, we need to understand the real fears vegans have of disclosing their veganism. Vegans can get a lot of hate, understanding the fear of disclosure. Research shows that negativity toward vegans is not only widespread, but also largely accepted and not seen as a societal problem, unlike other forms of bias. So while vegans face bias and even outright hate like other stigmatized groups, their experience is compounded by the fact that hating on vegans is generally acceptable, even socially encouraged. Documentary filmmaker Kelly Guerin's experience of coming out vegan was so jarring that she focused her honors thesis in anthropology on better understanding the source of the aggression she encountered. She said, I expected my friends and family would mock me as they had done before when I became vegetarian. What I did not expect was the hostility I faced and the almost daily confrontations in which I found myself forced to engage. I was called freak, naive, and was even told by one roommate, you should just do the world a favor and kill yourself. Shockingly, an old friend who had recently turned vegan confided that he found it much harder emotionally to tell people he was a vegan than it was to come out as a homosexual in a conservative middle school. Being an anthropology major, I found these statements both disturbing and fascinating. In my video and article, The Science of Why People Hate Vegans, I explore what research, including Guerin's theses, has to say about what motivates these kinds of responses. I won't reiterate that entire video and article here, but one of the key takeaways is that when we take the time to understand the defenses behind such negativity toward vegans, we can see that they primarily arise from a place of personal distress rather than intentional cruelty. At the same time, understanding the source of negativity or aggression doesn't always make being on the receiving end of it any less distressing, nor does it make that negativity acceptable or not worth addressing. While it's helpful for us to lower our own defenses in order to have more effective interactions with people, it's equally important that we validate how painful, isolating, infuriating, and challenging it can be to be openly vegan in this world. In understanding all sides, we start to see the common threads of humanity that run throughout our discord. Vegans want to be judged for who they are, not who people think they are. As we've discussed, one of the most common reasons vegans self-silence is to avoid stigma and stereotypes. Essentially, vegans desire what most of us desire, to be judged for who we are rather than who people think we are. Studies show that the most prominent negative perception of vegans is that they're judgmental, self-righteous, and arrogant. Some people have had interactions with vegans where they felt judged or attacked, and let's be honest, they very well may have been. At the same time, research shows that even the gentlest message from a vegan is often received as aggressive. And even just the mention of a vegan can put people on guard. People often anticipate being judged by vegans, which raises their defenses, and vegans anticipate being seen as judgmental, raising their defenses as well. Essentially, vegans can be prejudged as judgmental out of the fear of being judged. If they have to disclose their veganism, vegans are put in the precarious position of trying to preemptively defend themselves from the assumption that they're judgmental, while not coming across as judgmental in their defense. Vegans may soften their veganism to avoid conflict, being stereotyped, and/or to make sure those around them don't feel judged. As one study participant put it, I have to defend myself and protect them at the same time, speaking to the dual burden of feeling responsible for making others feel comfortable around her while at the same time protecting herself from verbal attacks. Many vegans feel they must also balance the tension between staying true to their beliefs and fitting in socially, emphasizing that they are proud of who they are and what they believe in. For some vegans, self-silencing is not so much about fitting in socially as it is the exhaustive demands of explaining themselves, which we'll explore soon in a dedicated section. Understandably, many vegans just avoid opening the door in the first place. Ironically, the self-silencing of vegans may actually reinforce some of the very stigmas and stereotypes they're trying to avoid. After all, no one can experience a vegan positively when they don't know they're a vegan in the first place. You may have had many positively delightful interactions with vegans and have absolutely no idea. This is why some vegans take the approach of letting people get to know them first before disclosing that they're vegan. But this isn't always possible, and for some of us, it's the people who know us best that have the most painful reactions. Vegans don't want to be rejected, mocked, or dismissed. Another reason vegans self-silence is due to the fear of being rejected, mocked, or dismissed. For many vegans, this fear comes from real-life painful experiences. Rejection is something we humans take extreme measures to avoid. The pain of rejection is significantly magnified when it's in response to a core aspect of our identity or a firmly held core value. This adds an additional layer for vegans motivated by ethical concerns for animal rights, the environment, human rights, and/or societal health. Mockery and dismissal of their veganism feels not only like a rejection of who they are, but also like mockery and dismissal of the very real suffering and exploitation of other animals and humans alike, and of pressing issues like the climate crisis. Perhaps the most devastating magnifier of rejection is when it comes from a central figure in our life, especially from within our family of origin. Nothing hits us quite like family does. Disclosing veganism is often unavoidable with family, and when that disclosure is met with negativity, it often leads vegans to be vigilant about not disclosing their veganism to other people, or even returning to eating animals. You just listened to Why Vegans Won't Tell You They're Vegan, The Other Side of Vegan Stigma, Part 1 by Moran Barwick at bitesizevegan.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, your host. Tune in tomorrow for the second half of this article, where we'll hear about how vegan silencing harms us all, and changing norms, moving toward a world without vegans. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.